Hello, 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 and welcome back to another episode of Fixing Comments County. My voice is doing some weird things today. It is really late and I'm super tired, but I wanted to play this game a little bit more, so I thought at the very least I had to do a little bit of introduction to the episode, didn't I? So we're still letting the Economy 2.0 patch simulate slowly. We've got a bunch of people waiting for hearses throughout our city. The death waves haven't fully gone through yet, but we're starting to get some bounce back. You can see if we zoom out a little bit, you can see where Economy 2.0 really hit. When we first brought it in and then when it really hit. But now we're starting to get some bounce back. Things are starting very slowly to stabilize again. We're getting a ton of population and I don't really know why, because we don't have very many empty households unless they changed up how households work, or maybe getting rid of all the babies and dogs living in houses alone fixed it. But Economy 2.0 still a work in progress. Our city still beautiful, and our city still has a load of messes like this. This, I think, is going to be part of today's goal. What I want to do over the next few times that I play is just completely redo this industrial area. This was really added on as an afterthought after I'd done basically everything else. This is like the last thing that I did, and I just really wanted to fill out the shore. I could not stand having an empty shore on such prime real estate, so I filled it out with an industrial area. And now we have 2 cargo harbors, plus a normal harbor, plus 2 subway yards, and a cargo train terminal, and a rail yard. All of this is completely unnecessary. I don't need so much redundancy, and I don't need all of them to be spaced out and placed so randomly. I think we have a great shot over here, even though we have no demand, to just redo this area, reconfigure it into something that has better harbors, more detailed, uses some of these beautiful new surface textures and these new assets that we got, filled with parking, filled with more realistic industry, maybe some complexes for things so that we can pick things up and place them down very specifically, like a whole bunch of storage around a big industrial factory. I understand what I was originally going for here with all this mix of density, and I think that's a good idea. It meant that I didn't have any chimneys in this area, and I think that I accomplished that pretty well. But now we have the better bulldozer mod. I can just delete some of these chimneys that we do have if we do get anything that's too big, and I think we'll be totally fine. And I think we're in a much better place to just redo this area, turn it into something absolutely beautiful. And with that said, it's a late night for me tonight, and I'm just gonna get right to it and check back in with you when I do. See you soon. Welcome back, everybody. It has been a while since I last played, but last time I played, I did a thing, and here it is. I made a rail yard. Basically, this entire area is completely changed from last time, so let's run through it. First, what I did is I moved this cargo terminal up and over a little bit, just nudging it into the corner. I kept most of this original loop around road. I thought it looked pretty cool underneath the highway. Then I extended that road over a little bit and moved our walking trail that was on the location of that original highway from last episode. Moved that walking trail backwards a little bit to make way for this new rail depot, which was moved over from this big empty space that's now over here. Then I linked up the two, linking up the bypass track from the rail depot to the cargo track and adding a whole bunch of extra spurs just for some extra car and train storage. And then I ended up filling the whole area just a whole lot using some of Sully's new surfaces to detail up this whole area, kind of creating these wavy patterns, kind of creating this fade off from the dirty, more worn down industrial area around the tracks to the more green, lush area that's around the highway interchange. I ended up having to push out this hill just for the terraforming necessary for this rail yard, especially because there's the possibility for extra tracks to be added over here. It means that this entire area has to be a flat pad, otherwise it just creates absolute nightmares of terrain. So all that's been flattened out with kind of a tree grove added to it. What this ends up looking like is something like here in Seattle, where I live, there's something called a green belt. And a green belt is just one of these big stretches of trees that's untouched by most development. Maybe it just has some roads, maybe a couple houses, but it's not as dense and suburban as a lot of the rest of the city. And it really formed as like this green belt that runs through this highly industrialized and urbanized area. So I can see, especially if some of this development starts pushing up back further onto the hill, I don't really expect, to be fair, but I can see there's a possibility if this development starts pushing up back onto this hill, even if it's just a couple of houses here and there, these trees will start to disappear, and this will really stand out as this belt of wilderness that creates this necessary separation. It helps with some of the noise that's going up that's between these areas. It helps separate some of the pollution between these areas. It creates a rocky belt that realistically just ends up getting used for trash and leftover containers and all sorts of things that have kind of fallen off by the wayside and aren't really maintained anymore. But yeah, this is a whole area, and what I'm going to do is bring us into first-person camera where we can watch this cargo train drive on by over the tracks that are slightly raised up for that bridge that goes down there. Again, this is the bridge that carries the trains up and over the highway. We can get a bit of a glimpse just by walking down towards the highway, and we can see that bridge running right over there, right above this highway interchange. You can also see the highway intersection pretty well from down here. It's just this big open area, and I can imagine over time some things get planted in these areas. But for now, head back up the hill where we can see our gorgeous grand train depot and train station. You can see that I've heavily used a lot of props here. We have a bunch of containers lying around, a bunch of oil tanks, a bunch of spare cars. We have all these services I've mentioned a couple times. We have extra train cars lying around both on the tracks and off of the tracks. I was considering deleting the catenary wires overhead, but I think they add a little bit of verticality to the space, which is nice. We got some wood piles lying around here and there. We got a bunch of bushes, some more train cars. These ones actually somewhat aligned on the track. It's probably as best as I could do from above. We have a bunch of boulders as well, blocking off some of the ends of the train tracks as if they kind of just terminate where some of this extra debris from flattening out this area was pushed. Rocks blocking one of our tracks, which we actually got to clear because this is the track into the cargo train terminal. I also added an extra storage warehouse just off to the side here next to the cargo train terminal. It just creates a little bit of a nice barrier in these natural forested areas that lead up between these industrialized areas and head up towards the road. When we're on the road, we really get this industrial park kind of feeling. From this side, it doesn't necessarily feel like a train yard as much as a general warehouse and industrial area where you can imagine all these different trucks driving by and dropping stuff off in the storage area around here. But then as we get to the end of this road, you can see that we have a connection onto this biking trail, this walking trail, which is where our old highway used to be. And we have the entrance onto the train yard where all these trains are theoretically stored on the inside of this building, which is fairly empty on the inside if we clip into there, where the trains are stored in here and they all merge into the tracks that lead into this central one. Look at that detail. Look at those track connections right there. It's gorgeous. And all these different tracks running through this slightly forested area slowly all connect and merge back up into one central track that I have just fallen through. Good job, cities. Moving back into our overhead view, I think this is just really nice section of the city now. It starts to stand out even when you look at it from above. You can see that this is a highly detailed and well-developed area, along with some of these other distinct surfaces, which are really just some of our farmlands and farming areas that we have going on. This little region that we detailed stands out as something really special, and I want to do a lot more of that going forwards in the city. But for now, I think we're going to call it here for the day. It's a shorter episode, I know, but next episode we got some really big things coming. We're going to be redeveloping some subway yards. We're going to be adding a whole new mini industrial area, some new piers, and it's going to be absolutely fantastic. So make sure you're looking forward to that next episode. But for now, we'll call it here. This has been a lot of work just for one little episode. I didn't time-lapse anything. So there's a lot that went into this, and I hope you enjoyed it. It's my first time doing something this detailed, and I am having so much fun. So thank you for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.